to Weave Along with Eloise. I'm Eloise of Finchingfield. I'm not going to be doing any weaving today. A very long time ago, there was a knight in the SCA by the name of Sir Edward Zifrin of Gendy. He lived in a small shire in the kingdom of Antir, a shire that he named with a name that he thought no one would ever forget. The Shire of Shithamwood. That's right. No one ever did forget it. In fact, the herald started to use the name as an example of what not to name your shire. But back when he was a starving college student, he used to fight in his armor, wearing something that was rather distracting, mundane, as we would say, green tennis shoes. So he looked great from head to ankle, and then there was the shoes. Now this is the kind of thing that can be really jarring for people in the SCA or any living history group where people are trying to achieve the dream. This is what we call it when we feel that magical moment where we feel like we've been transported back in time. We're at a feast and there's candlelight and we're surrounded by friends and great food, and you feel in that medieval moment. But of course that medieval moment can be completely thrown off kilter when you see somebody running around in tennis shoes. I have long had an issue trying to find shoes that fit, particularly medieval shoes, but any modern shoes. I have very wide feet, high volume feet, and finding women's shoes in those sizes are almost impossible. So the next option, if you're looking for medieval shoes, is to find a shoemaker, somebody to make you a pair of medieval shoes that look good, that are in your time period, that would fit with your costume. And they're expensive. And when I say they're expensive, I mean it's what it's worth. Artisans work for years perfecting their craft and making these amazing things, and it is absolutely worth that much money. But I don't have that much money. However, if you're like me, and you're a little bit crafty, and you're not afraid of experimenting, you could make yourself a pair of shoes without a huge investment of money. Now the biggest investment, of course, is buying the leather. But what we did is we got a few people together and we pooled our money to buy one hide of leather. It's not as expensive as you think. There are a number of extant examples of very simple shoes that existed throughout time. The oldest leather shoe was found in Armenia in 3400 BC. That's before the pyramids were built. And even if you have a late period persona, they had very simple turn shoes that were available even into the 16th century. Many of the leather shoes that we have found that were made were just a simple piece of leather with a drawstring around the top and cinched up around the foot. Others had some elaborate cutwork all over the top of the foot, but again, it was based on that simple framework of a piece of leather drawn up around the foot, or a few pieces that were sewn together with just 2 or 3 seams. Now, if making shoes is not your thing, you could always try to modify a pair of shoes that already exist into looking a little bit more period. There's a pair of Uggs that look very much like a pair that was found in Oseberg and another pair that was found in London. I just came across this image of some mini Uggs that look very similar to pairs of mini boots that were available in the Middle Ages. Add some straps, and it doesn't look too bad. I mean, it's still Uggs. And remember, if you're looking for a pair of serviceable shoes, but you don't think you're going to be that good, remember that not everybody who made shoes in the Middle Ages were experts. This is a really ugly shoe repair, and it looks like it needed another repair. So the style I chose is a 10th century Anglo-Scandinavian style. It is a very simple shoe. It's a turn shoe, and it has 2 seams on it. The original was found in York at the Coppergate excavation, and it's made of 1 piece of leather with 2 seams on it. I have a friend who is a local SCA shoemaker, and she helped me with the patterning of it and helped me shape it around my foot using duct tape and a plastic grocery sack. Now, I didn't film the process of getting my foot patterned, but I did have an opportunity to film my friend Aenor. So now I'll show you how to make the pattern and how to turn those into a pair of wearable shoes. Now this is normally where I would say, okay, let's grab your loom and let's get started. There's no loom in this, so I'm not sure what to do to transition. So let's just get started. this is shoe number 2. I got this far with shoe number 1, which is mostly finished. I'm going to be adding some kind of lacing around the edge so that it can be cinched up a little bit tighter. I don't think that I'm going to do anything really elaborate with this. I mean, it's not an Italian shoe. This is just a Jorvik slipper, so I'm probably not going to do anything super fancy with it. But now I'll show you how I sewed it together. I've got my pattern all cut out. I've cut it up the heel just a little bit. Let's flip it over. Okay, so when I sew it together, it's going to be like this. So it'll look like the other shoe. To sew these together, you start with the wrong side, and you've got your awl. It's got a little safety cap on it so you don't stab yourself. When I bought this, it was really quite dull, so you will have to sharpen it. You will hurt yourself with this if you're not careful, so be careful. The other thing you're going to need is a long staple linen thread, 2 harness needles, like so. Now, these are not sharp. You don't want sharp needles. If they're sharp, they could end up piercing the leather where you don't want it to pierce. You use the awl to make the hole, and then you use the dull needles to follow that channel that you created with the awl. You'll also need some wax for waxing your thread. You'll need some teeny tiny sharp scissors for cutting your thread. Oh, the other thing, glasses. Okay, so I'm going to take a length of thread, about maybe that much. Because this is rather thin, it was recommended to me that I double it up, so I'm going to twist it and ply it on itself. Twisty, twisty, twisty. And twist this one in the same direction. And then double it up and it'll just twist on itself. And then you'll want to wax it. So just run it through the wax 3 or 4 times. You want to get the wax on all the different surfaces. Thread through the needle here on this end. Fold it over. And add just a little bit more wax there. There we go. And then thread this end. And what I've done before is end up snipping off the loop because it's harder to thread with the loop there sometimes. But I got it through. Okay. So you want to have a needle on each end and a little tail. Now when you puncture the leather, you want to go in at an angle. I'm going to go in right here, about 3 to 4 millimeters in. And you want the awl to come out right about in the middle of the leather, in the middle of the thickness of the leather. Yeah, right about there. So you don't want it to come out too close to the surface on either side, right in the middle. And then directly across from that, you want to do another stitch, same distance away from the edge. I'll turn this around. Watching the edge so I can see it and you can see it. And that's right about in the middle again. And you just want a couple of millimeters to be sticking out. And what you'll do is you'll put the needle through the leather, following the holes that you created. And for this first stitch, pretty much want to do it twice. So take the same needle and run it through twice. thimbles. Thimbles are nice for grabbing and pushing. So pull it through. Oops. Don't want to create a loop there. Okay. Give it a little tug. Not too tight, you don't want to squish it, but you want to keep the edges butted up. There. So you want to keep the edges butted up, but not squish too much. And then you do it again. And you want to keep the stitches about 3 millimeters apart. The leather's about 3 millimeters thick. The stitches are about 3 millimeters apart. And hopefully that stitch won't tear out. I did kind of goof on that one. Now instead of crossing over again, you want to go with this thread, which is closest to you. You want to go down to that hole next to it and across. And then the other needle, you follow the same path backwards. Pull it snug, and you've finished another stitch. You'll keep repeating this until you get to the center point of the heel, or maybe one stitch before, because you will need to trim off some of the edge here and here to make it fit your heel properly.